Hey, hello everyone. Um, so today we'll continue on introduction to SPSS, and we're going to be talking about the concept of data coding in SPSS. So data coding is actually very important, and especially if you are carrying out a survey analysis. So I would explain how to carry out data coding and would also do some descriptive analysis on SPSS. So without wasting time, let's get right into the video. So this is the SPSS interface, and you can open a file if you have an existing SPSS file. For me, I have an existing SPSS file from the last video, so I'm going to open SPSS interface with work file. So yes, this is it, and we are on a data view right now, and this is the variable view. So data coding is being carried out on this column, the column values. So and how it works is this. Suppose we have class of students, and of course we have class of student here, which could be student in secondary school 1, secondary school 2, and secondary school 3. So it could be level 1, level 2, level 3. If it is higher education student, it could be 100 level, 200 level, 300 level, 400 level. So for this case, we need to represent each number as the student's class. So what I mean is this: SPSS uses number. Most statistical software uses number, but we need to interpret or code this number into the actual category or option. So in this case, 1 could represent 100 level, 2 could represent 200 level, 3 could represent 300 level. So whichever way you want to code your survey or questionnaire, you can do that here. So to do that, you would come to the class row, and under class row you say class of student, or we could change this to level of student, and here to level. So in this case, you go to value. So when you come to value, you click on this button here, and then it brings out what the value label. So what this means is your value is the number that appears on your data view, and the label is what you are encoding the value as. So for 1 would be 100 level. So you click add, then you move to the next number, which is 2, it's 200 level. Then you click add, and you move to the third number, which is 300 level. So suppose you make a mistake here, you can click on it and remove to code again. So, or if you don't want to remove, you can change, you can edit here and click on change. So that's everything. And you can code further, or you can also code, yeah, you can code for any number that you may want to use in your data view. So now, we only have 1, 2, 3 on the data view, but you can code, 4 for 400 level, click on add, and 5 for 500 level. So after doing that, it is saved and you've had what your value encoded in. your variable view. So if you come back to this will the level will still appear as 1, 2, and 3 because those are the values. You can even increase it by putting 4, 5, 1, 5. So, but right now, SPSS understands that for 1 actually represents 100 level, and 2 represents 200 level, 3 represents 300 level. Another case is you might be working with a gender data. So from the last video, we talked about creating a variable. So when I click on gender here, it appears on my data view, and I'm going to write gender of student, and then under the value slash label, 1 would represent male, 2 will represent female, and 3 could be prefer not to say. So then we can make some edit here, make sure this is nominal, and then come back to this. You can move it around so that we have everything in the same line. So you can copy and paste, and then we have 1, 2. So yes, now to the most interesting part, when you want to see the labels in which these values represent, you go on to the toolbar and then you click on this icon. This icon is labeled value label. So when you click on it, it changes the values to the label, and when you click on it, it returns it back to value. So it helps you to iterate between values and label, and that is how you do data coding. So how do we apply data coding to a questionnaire, or a typical survey? So this is an example of a questionnaire, and the same way you carry out data coding, that's how you're going to code for all of this questionnaire. Let's take it from number 1, and then we can clear up these columns. So you can just delete. And then the first thing is age range, gender, marital status, and level of education. So we also have employment status, and monthly income. So going straight to the values column, since age range, gender, marital status, and level of education are all nominal data, you can code them by representing the first option as 1 through 4, or whatever the number of options that you have. So 1 year would represent 18 to 25, 2 would represent 26 to 35, 3 would represent 36 to 45, 4 would represent 46 to 55, and 5 would represent 56 and above. So we are going to do the same thing for gender. 1 is male, 2 is female, 3 is others. So we'll do this for all of the demographic details in the questionnaire. Let me do that real quick. So now that you've pulled for all of the options that we have here, we can clean up data the data a little bit, just the settings for the variable view. So changing the decimal and all of that. So the next question that you get is, how do you deal with the question aspect of the questionnaire or the survey? Like this section B, for example, in some cases you'd have strongly agree, agree, disagree, and all of that. So let's assume this is strongly, strongly disagree. So it works similarly, but the most common Likert scale measurement that we have is the 4 or 5 Likert scale measurement. So for this case, this is a 4 Likert scale measurement, and oftentimes it is usually represented with the following numbers. So strongly agree being 4 and strongly disagree being 1. Now, in some cases, this might change depending on the tone of your question or how the question is being asked. If your question is positive or whether your question is negative. So sometimes you have to make use of the concept of reverse coding, but most time you usually have strongly agree to strongly disagree as 4 to 1. So how do you do that? Sometimes when you want to code for this, it goes the same way, it goes similarly. The only difference is you may want to represent each of the question by a particular code in your name column. Then you can if you wish, put the entire question. You can copy the entire question and put it in your label. But the first thing is right now when I put it in the label, a variable is created. So you may want to represent this variable as either question with the number in front. Remember, you can't put a space in between in the name column, or you can have it written this way. So you can do question 7, question 8, question 9, and question 10, with question 11. So all of this, and note, these numbers are usually represented here as scalar measure. The questions, the question section or the question variables are usually represented as ordinal. So they are usually represented as ordinal, not scalar. So you represent them as ordinal because a Likert scale has a specific hierarchy. Strongly agree being more weighted than strongly disagree, because strongly agree has a number 4, which is higher than agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. So we just want to do the variable, the data coding for our question variable. So the same thing applies. You have 4 and then represent it as strongly agree. So you can use either strongly agree or you can represent it as SA. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to. Sometimes, most time I use SA. Two as D and one as SD. So to make it fast because you can have like as much as 20 or 30 questions depending on the kind of questionnaire you're using. You can copy and just paste through. So just copy here and paste on the rest. So the changes apply to the rest of the columns. So you can also copy the questions, paste it. So yeah, now you have successfully coded your questionnaire. You can change the number of decimals here. So you successfully code your questionnaire, and then the next thing would be to proceed to data entry. So you already have empty data view. You can now begin data entry.